Welcome to G3 TV, where African stories comes to life. Don't forget to subscribe and comment where you are watching from. The sun had not yet risen, but the village of Abodoti was already awake. A thick fog rolled low through the huts like a secret, muffling the sounds of the early morning and carrying with it the scent of wet earth and distant river reeds. Abodoti was a village hemmed by hills and cradled by the winding T stream, a village whose name meant place of water, though in recent times, it had been known by another name, Abodo Oku, the place of fire. The fire came with them, men without faces, with eyes like burning coals and horses that kicked up dust like stones. They rode into Abodoti as though the gods themselves had sent them, with spears, arrows, and horse laughter that curdled the milk of nursing mothers. They were herdsmen, but not the kind who moved silently with cattle and prayer beads. These ones bore machetes not for grass but for flesh. They did not ask. They took. That first attack had come at the end of a planting season, when the yams were still sleeping in the earth. The village had no chance. They left behind 10 bodies, 12 burnt huts, and a silence so heavy it pressed down on everyone like a curse. That was the beginning of the terror. The herdsmen returned twice more, each time demanding more food, more livestock, more ground to graze their beasts. The elders gathered beneath the ancient Udola tree, the same one that had shaded generations of decisions, and they spoke in hushed, broken tones. The land was failing, the gods were silent, and the people were beginning to scatter like dry kernels in the wind. It was on the 7th market day after the last raid that the high priestess, Mama Ifego, emerged from the shrine with her body covered in white chalk and her eyes clouded with something deeper than age. She called for the drum of verdict. It had not been sounded since the death of her predecessor, the great Dibiana Miwo, who was said to have parted the rain clouds with a single chant. The sound of that drum echoed into the hills and down to the river's edge, calling all to the village square. They gathered, young, old, crippled, strong, grieving. Even those who had fled into the bush returned, drawn by something older than fear. Mama Ifego stood at the center, staff in hand, and when she spoke, her voice was not hers alone. The gods have spoken. The mamas rippled like the surface of a disturbed stream. They say Abodoti must return what was promised. The pact has been broken. The spirit of the hills has grown hungry. And until the sacrifice is made, this land will know no peace. The people shifted nervously. The children clutched their mothers' wrappers. A man in the front fell to his knees and muttered prayers beneath his breath. Then she said the words none had expected. It must be a maiden. Pure. Marked by fate. One whose soul carries the blood of the ancestors. One chosen not by men, but by the deity itself. And just like that, silence became a person that lived in the village. In the following days, strange signs began to appear. Calabashes floated against the current of the stream. Fireflies gathered only around one hut at night. Goats refused to eat from certain hands. It became clear that the gods were not waiting, they were pointing. And they pointed to Nokigo. Nokigo, whose name meant "a child is greater than wealth," was the daughter of the late palm wine tapper, Ozuom, and his wife, Amelachuku. She was 17, with eyes the color of dusk and a laugh that made even the sour-faced old market women chuckle. She spoke little, but when she did, her words stayed with people. She was known for walking barefoot, even when the sun was hot, and for feeding birds by hand near the shrine without fear. The elders called her the breeze that touches without stirring dust. When the signs all pointed to her, no one knew how to respond. Her mother wailed, tearing at her own wrapper until it hung in ribbons. Some villagers whispered that it made sense, that the child had always been strange, touched, spirit-filled. Others claimed she should run, that no god who demanded blood was worth obedience. But Nokigo did not run. When the high priestess came to her, eyes heavy with the weight of generations, Nokigo simply nodded. If it will save the village, she said, then let the gods have me. The preparation for the sacrifice was not rushed. The gods had spoken, yes, but in Abodo tea, even death followed tradition. The elders declared that the offering must take place on the night of the full moon, when the veil between the mortal and the spirit world was thinnest, and when the hills whispered most clearly. That gave the village 7 days. 7 days to weep, to wonder, to question, and to prepare. Mama Ifego came every day to Nokigo's mother's compound. She brought herbs and chants, oils and silence. She taught Nokigo the songs of farewell, the sacred steps to take when approaching the hill, and the things she must not say, no matter what she saw. The villagers began to treat her differently, not like a girl anymore, but like something else entirely. Children stopped playing when she passed. Women lowered their heads. Men stepped aside, murmuring prayers with trembling lips. But Nokigo was not afraid. If she cried, it was only in the night, beneath the old Udola tree where her father used to sing. Her mother tried everything, begged the elders, fasted for days, even tried to cut her own arm to offer in her daughter's place. But the gods had chosen, and Abodo tea had long learned what happened to those who defied the gods. The night before the sacrifice, a strange peace settled over the village. For the first time in months, the wind blew softly. A baby laughed instead of crying. The herdsmen did not appear at the edge of the fields. The stream flowed clear. It was as if the land knew what was coming. That evening, Nokigo dressed in white, the color of ash and purity. Her hair was oiled and braided with cowries. Around her neck hung a single red bead, said to protect the soul during its journey. No one was allowed to follow her beyond the river. That was the law. The sacred hill, Ayani, belonged to the deity alone. She crossed the stream barefoot, her feet barely making ripples. At the edge of the sacred grove, Mama Ifego waited with 3 other women, old priestesses who had not spoken in years. They chanted in voices that seemed to come from the earth itself. Nokigo stepped forward and entered the sacred path. The forest swallowed her. It was said that no fire lit by man could burn in Ayani. Only the moon, if she chose to shine, would light the path. That night, the moon was a silver coin in the sky, and it bathed the trees in a ghostly glow. Nokigo walked silently, clutching a small gourd filled with bitter cola and alligator pepper, the gift for the deity. Her breath was steady. Her eyes wide. As she climbed the rocky path, she heard things, low murmurs in a language older than her ancestors, rustling that didn't belong to wind or animal, and a strange hum that vibrated in her chest like a drumbeat from inside her own ribs. But she did not stop. She reached the altar, a flat stone shaped like a pregnant woman, sleek with dew, and knelt. "I am Nokigo," she said softly, "child of Ozuom, blood of Amelechukwu. I come as your servant. I come as your peace." There was no thunder. No lightning. Just the slow rising of mist from the ground, thick and sweet like incense. And then, a voice. It did not speak as humans do. It moved inside her thoughts. "Why do you offer yourself?" She did not answer with words, but with her breath, her presence, her stillness. "You are not afraid?" "No," she whispered aloud, her voice cracking like a dry twig. "I am not afraid. I am ready." Then the mist thickened. Her body became heavy, her head light. She felt as if she were floating in water that did not wet her skin. She saw visions, her village burning, then blooming. Her mother laughing again. Children running freely. The herdsmen turning their backs and walking away, vanishing like ghosts at dawn. Then, darkness. When the morning came, the villagers gathered at the edge of the stream, waiting. Mama Ifego stood at the front, her staff buried halfway in the earth. They waited in silence. And then they heard it, the sound of birds singing. From across the stream, a gentle breeze blew. On its wings came petals. Red petals. None knew from which tree. The stream, which had been still, now gurgled like a happy child. A white wrapper floated down from the hill, untouched by dirt or water. It landed on the surface of the stream and drifted to the villagers' feet. Mama Ifego knelt and picked it up. She looked to the sky and smiled through tears. It is done. They did not find Mokigo's body. They built no grave. Instead, they built a shrine beneath the Udola tree, where her laughter once lived. They called her the Maiden of Peace. They sang her name at every new moon. And from that day on, the herdsmen never returned. Their cattle no longer grazed the border of Abodoti. The people rebuilt their huts, planted their yams, and told the story again and again. But the story was not finished yet. At first, the silence felt like a blessing. No hooves drummed against the earth. No shouts echoed in the hills. Just the soft rustle of yam leaves in the wind, and the laughter of children who no longer woke from dreams of fire. The people of Abodoti called it peace. But peace, like a calabash left too long in still water, can begin to rot from within. It began with the birds. They stopped singing near the Udola tree. The bright-eyed weavers and parrot finches that once danced between branches vanished. Old Motsi Ova, who carved flutes from okwi branches, was the first to notice. One morning, he sat beneath the Udola, pressing his ear to the roots. He rose with a frown deep enough to carry rain. The ground does not sleep, he said. It listens. And it remembers. The others paid him no mind. They had yams to dry, walls to plaster, twins to name. But then came the dreams. Children woke crying, faces wet with salt. They spoke of a girl with eyes full of stars, walking the edge of the river, calling in a voice like water. Elders who had not feared the dark in decades sat with firelight and kola nuts, whispering prayers too old for memory. Still, no one said her name. Except one. Ifunanya, daughter of the potter, granddaughter of the healer. She had her grandmother's quiet hands and her mother's stubborn mouth. On the seventh night of silence, while others lay still in their huts, Ifunanya stood barefoot beneath the Udola tree and whispered the name no one dared speak. Nwakigo, she said. I hear you. The wind did not answer. The tree did. Its leaves stirred though no breeze passed. The roots paused beneath her feet, and a low hum rose, like the memory of a song. Ifunanya stepped forward and placed her hand on the bark. She did not vanish. She descended, slowly, as if the earth opened to receive her. The roots welcomed her like arms returning a daughter. And just before the tree sealed again, a warm light spread through the trunk like blood through veins. In the morning, all the villagers found was a single clay pendant resting at the base of the tree, smooth, warm, and still glowing faintly. They did not weep. They lit a fire. They gathered at the shrine and added Ifunanya's name to the songs. Not in mourning, but in honor. For peace, like memory, must be tended. It is not the absence of chaos, but the presence of sacrifice. And so, they sang for the Maiden of Peace. And for the girl who listened.